there is a martyr-like tendency, and it comes from a very pure-hearted place, especially for empaths, to feel and bear the burden of help share in the emotional heaviness and density of those around us. First and foremost, we can't help but feel it when someone else is in a place of pain, when they are stuck, like they're in emotional quicksand. And we see them thrashing about. We hear, the angry things they're saying, the way that they're complaining and catastrophizing. And it doesn't matter what negative thing someone is saying, whether they are insulting someone, being self-deprecating, complaining, catastrophizing, it all comes from a place of pain. It's just their way of communicating, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain. And that can be very heart-wrenching for the sensitive among us who don't want people to feel that way, because we feel it too, and we can feel that they're not right and they're far from themselves. What happens, and the message that came through about what happens when we forego our own well-being to share in the distress of another, is we don't end up lifting them up. We end up bringing ourselves down, and there we stay. It's not going to sound like the easiest, most sunshiny path towards helping the collective reach that higher vibration to help us all, ascending into a better place, wherever that is. I feel it, you feel it, something's happening, and we all need to be lighter and more positive for it to take place. The alternative is perpetuating the narrative that we are being inundated with in every orifice, from every news media outlet, music, TV, you name the source, it's pumping the same message that things are getting worse. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think we have a choice for it to be worse, and we also have a choice for it to be a lot better. It's just a matter of putting energy towards, they talk about in Native American cultures, I forget which one, but it's been repeated enough, the two wolves, right? You got two wolves and you can only feed the one you want to grow. And the wolves are, do you want the world to be a more dire, desperate, lonely, war-torn place of scarcity? Or do you want the world to be a more interconnected place of acceptance and belonging, where people don't have to be afraid to do the things that they all want to do? Because a lot of us, not necessarily, we don't agree with things that are being, thrown at us. I think human beings have a lot more in common with each other than this institutionalized violence that we are led to participate in. Michel Foucault, a French philosopher, had that theory about, it's not just a theory, it's happening in plain sight, the institutionalization of violence. And that means not necessarily that, people are going around armed and cutting each other like the Wild West. No, it's coming from within. It's the institution, and it's violently separating you from your fellow human being and your own heart. The most just gnarly example of this is if you are on public transportation in a busy city like Chicago or New York, rush hour, on the train, on the subway, and you are just right up against another human being's breath. You can feel them on you, and you pretend that they are not there, right? You go somewhere else. You're just like, nope, I'm not here. I'm not with this person. That is the institutionalization of violence, because you are severing yourself from reality, from the human connection in front of you. And, for good reason. It's an unpleasant situation to be in. Anywho, I'm getting off topic. Words matter. The words that you use with other people and with yourself matter a lot. They carry a lot of density, and they They are self-fulfilling prophecies. They are spells. When you speak, it is a spell. And if you take nothing else away from this video, only speak the things that you want to be true. We tend to fall into a trap of relating to others on the lowest common denominator. That is something that needs to stop now. Relating to others on the lowest common denominator, meaning we can all agree that the weather is bad. So let's just talk about how bad the weather is and how, climate change is only getting worse. And, it'll be, before you know it, the big one and the disasters and the war-torn and the blah, blah, blah. No. That might happen, sure. Do we need to accelerate it with our speech and our worry, even for show and performance sake, to falsely relate to the people around us? Because you're not actually relating to people when you speak in these terms about these things. You're not saying anything about your inner self. You're not saying anything about the things you have created, the things you desire to create, and how you guys might, support one another in the realization of these creations, either energetically or manually, practically. What resources can you pull? Can you just put a little bit of belief in the thing that they want to see and actualize, as opposed to, let's talk about how bad things are and how much worse they will be. No, that's not true. And it's not true relating either. So this message about the emotional burden, the emotional obligation that so many of us feel called to share in, to help others. It comes from a pure-hearted place. I want to help this person feel better. Going down to their level is not going to help them. The best you can do, from what I was relayed, is to reflect only the brightest parts of these other human beings that they might have obscured in themselves. So something I like to do when I'm in negative emotional environments is sing a song, an oldie, a classic oldie. Dum 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 dee dum bum 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 bum. It can just be a little ditty, or tell a joke. It can be a simple one, like the popsicle stick jokes. One I came up with, just standing in the kitchen, was, how do sharks make sure that there are no cheaters when they play sports? They call in a referee. Like reef, sharks live in the reef, referee, little things like that. Just lighten the mood. It can be silly. It probably will be, but you're contributing to rebalancing the energy in that situation out of one of catastrophe and dis-ease and into one of levity, lightness. It transforms just a little bit. So keep that with you as you listen to this message on emotional obligation and why it is not yours. In love. Everyone gets ruined by the lack of someone else. The purer soul asks to help ease what is too burdensome for the one in turmoil, and in doing so allows the weight to infiltrate, to be a part of their energy field. And when this occurs, nothing can be done except to recognize that lack is a myth. Lack is a lie. It's difficult to re-enter that realm of purity once one has bound themselves to the weight of understanding what someone else is going through. Recognition of differentiation of life path experiences is the only way to remove the burden, chains of burden, which lock us into lower dimensions of reality in order to commune with those with whom we share pain. In order to advance and ascend, you must figure out that pain is no language of sympathy. To indulge in the pain of another is counterintuitive. One thinks that one must initiate themselves to the suffering of another soul in order to alleviate, in order to communicate. But this is a bridge with only one destination. One cannot comprehend the turmoil of another unless one has walked the same turmoil themselves, independently, coming to arrive at the same nexus, moment, realization on their own. Nothing can be done to save another from their own emotions, happy, sad, or indifferent. We can positively reflect what another may have obscured in themselves, and that will be your best defense in holding on to higher levels of vibration, higher aspects of source and self. All is source. Even the negative, heated morose of those who seem to have forgotten what it is like to be light and frivolic and play in this universal playground. All we can do is reflect to them what they may have lost within themselves. But if that seed for joy is too far gone, one must understand that that was a choice on behalf of the beholder. One must understand that some are on paths to choose dwelling in density, that their lifespan is meant to be one, dwelling in density, to understand the consequences of such a manner of living, to purely understand this experience. If you are one saved of this experience, it is only because you have altered your happenstance in this experiential existence by means of operating and aligning with higher frequency occurrences. Some of us have suffered such monumental misunderstandings in our collective perception to misunderstand, to see the separation instead of the whole, and that is the burden of being human. We know this. This is why reflecting the highest notions of ourselves is the only way to enlighten the environments around us. But if there is no innate resonance in the other souls within reach, you are under no obligation to match that. You are under no obligation to surrender your higher level of being and seeing to match the ones who have chosen alternate routes. Love is ultimately present in all operations, even the ones that seem dark. Love for the fullness of this human experience. The nature of duality is not one that is easily ingested. But the more you can align yourself with one wavelength, the lesser the dissonance. Dissonance within the self results in disembodiment and disease. How can you remain in one form, one self, one whole, if you have actively fragmented and split yourself from yourself? Certain cells operating under one vibration, certain cells operating under alternate vibrations. This dissonance causes a rift in your physical being, one which manifests quite literally in dis-ease. Conditions arise in order to rectify the balance. But this rectification is equivalent to scar tissue when one incurs a wound upon the skin. It is not like the smooth, original, unblemished skin. It is more dense, more unbecoming. But it is the pre-programmed remedy for healing in case of emergency. All of this can be healed should you choose to realize, remember, respond to the greater knowing that everything
is just as it should be, and to seize and tighten your grasp upon particular outcomes or particular occurrences of the past. You miscalculate. You hinder yourself from the leap.